There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonko table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonko table, the table that will make their dreams come true.
Yo, folks. Welcome to the latest and the greatest from the Yonko table. That is the voice of Grandmaster Hoop coming at you from the, the pilot seat of an X-Wing, the pilot seat of the Millennium Falcon, the pilot seat of an Imperial Destroyer. Yes, that's right. Those are all Star Wars references because we are doing a retro piece on Star Wars, The Force Awakens. That's right, folks. We are covering Star Wars, The Force Awakens, which was the first entry in the fated Star Wars sequel series. And this was brought to us by one of our supernovas. And yeah, it should be a fun ride. Troy, we're home. But with me, as always, is DrJaceAttorney. DrJaceAttorney. How excited are you to talk about The Force Awakens? It's your favorite Star Wars film, right?
Clearly, it's my favorite. It's the best in the goodness. What's it called? Oh no, you know what? No, never mind.
The sequel trilogy?
Not the sequel. Like if you want to combine all of them into 9 movies, you have
the Skywalker saga.
The Skywalker saga. It's the best film in the Skywalker saga. I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow.
Surprisingly, no, I am kidding. Surprisingly though, I did not watch this film since its initial release in theaters. I watched it once, and I remember liking it a lot. And it wasn't, me not watching out of like, oh, I never want to watch it again. It's just, I don't watch most movies more than once. I mean, maybe sometimes twice. Shrek 2, I watch multiple times. But for Force Awakens, I actually watched it recently for the purposes of this pod. And I have less nice things to say about it. Almost 8 years later, right? Because it came out 2015.
Wait, are you serious? 8 years later?
It's been 8 years. It'd be 10 years, 2025.
Jeez.
It's wild. But yes, I'm actually kind of excited to talk on why my opinion on it has shifted, honestly, very greatly since my initial watch. So I'm excited in that aspect to talk about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a fun conversation talking about kind of, again, it was a big deal when this film was first announced, but let me stop talking. We're going to pass the reins over to the only supernova in the house tonight, is the one who has brought this to the table. It's none other than Nino Desposado. Nino Desposado, thank you for bringing this to the table. And we're going to go ahead and give you the reins because this is your baby right here.
This is your favorite. This is why you want to talk about it.
I just think that it's time to talk about it, and I haven't found anything. Maybe there are things, but I think after a certain point, people only want to talk about post Rise of Skywalker Star Wars Disney media. There is very few things that people want to look back on, and I feel like it's been enough time, and we can start setting up the stage here for this retrospective and looking back on this. I watched this in theaters and I remember loving it. I grew up on the prequel series, and I think that when this was announced back when I was in high school, it blew everybody's mind. Kind of. I think everyone's was just like, oh, we're getting more Star Wars, but we're also like, oh, Disney is trying to make more money. So there was always that sentiment behind it. So it did premiere, in December 2015 after 10 years since episode 3. That's crazy. We had 10 years without Star Wars if you don't count the Clone Wars.
Right. I guess for films, right. Yeah.
Right. Well, oh God, there was the Clone Wars film.
Don't that does not
Ew,
count.
no
I-
one likes that. I mean,
It
I don't
was-
know. Maybe some
it-
people do like it.
It
But
was the
I,
first 4 episodes
Right.
of
Oh,
the
was
Clone
it
Wars.
really?
Yes,
It
that
was.
was the pilot of the
yeah.
Clone Wars. Yeah.
Wow. I honestly, when I watched the Clone Wars, I never watched the movie, and I just watched all of Clone Wars, and I'm like, oh damn, I got to go back at some point and watch the movie because it probably explains where Ahsoka came from.
No.
But wow, okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Dare I say, the Clone Wars as a whole, because Clone Wars premiered 3 years after Revenge of the Sith, and then its first finale is in 2013. It was a nice little, so what's the word? Palate cleanser of Star Wars. It was good, and it was a nice little placeholder until the next big film, which we didn't know was going to come. But it makes you really appreciate the Clone Wars. But let me not digress. This is not a Clone Wars talk. All I'm saying is it was a nice little. It held us over until the time.
It really did. But I think once Disney announced that they were buying Lucasfilm for like $7 billion, well, $4.05 billion,
Right.
the writing was on the wall. Speaking of the last time y'all did this with Supernova, the Clone Wars was on Cartoon Network. When your big competitor buys a property of yours, that's the Grim Reaper being like, hey, open up, it's time to axe this show. And it was just, the writing was on the wall at that point, and we knew that Disney wanted to do something big with Star Wars because they got Marvel, I think before Star Wars, or
Yeah,
in the
well
same
before
year.
Star Wars, I think.
Yeah.
I think Marvel was what, like 09 or 08?
Yeah, and then the last movies that carried over were Captain America and Thor, and then Avengers was like their first one. But yeah, so they had Marvel, they get Star Wars. It's a conglomerate at this point.
Yes.
Who's next on the chopping block? Fox over here, like, oh.
Yeah. And
God,
it's
it's a monopoly, Jesus.
And it's true because, and it's important to stress this point out, that Star Wars used to be, when a Star Wars movie was coming out, you were dumb to go up against it in theaters. That would be where everyone would go see, and that's been like that, since the original trilogy, the prequels. Everyone, like, Star Wars, that's it. So imagine Disney, another big titan, having the MCU, the newly formed SCU, and Star Wars coming together. That's extremely unfair. But
it's funny that you say that because your favorite movie, of course, is Avatar: The Way of Water. And I remember for years, like every time James Cameron said this movie was going to come out, he would push it out. Like this is like 2017, 2018. And a lot of the times during this time period, it was because a Star Wars movie was coming out during the holiday season. So like your December, your November time period. And I remember just seeing, oh, we're never getting Avatar 2 because Disney's going to release a Star Wars movie every single year, and it's going to have to compete with it. So I definitely believe in that no one wants to compete with Star Wars because it's going to make bank. It's going to make bank. That's your competition.
And thinking about it, they didn't release Avatar 2 until Star Wars was well past the
done
out of the box office. Which is very telling.
Mm-hmm.
But so there was this big culture shift once Disney bought Star Wars, I think, and I noticed it. I noticed it when I was growing up. When we were growing up, everything that you could find of Star Wars, games, merchandise, lightsabers, there was a heavy influence of the Clone Wars. There was a heavy influence of the prequels. You could go in, I was in like middle school, like let's say 2010, you could go into a Walgreens and find an original box from episode 1 Darth Maul lightsaber.
Yeah.
Very specifically, yes.
It was the more I mean, in my opinion, it's the more marketable trilogy of Star Wars compared to the original. Like I know they had toys and games back when the original came out, but the prequels, yeah, like you have so many Jedi, so many different color lightsabers, different characters that are just you know, people wanted to dress up as, both male and female and creatures. So yeah, no, for sure. I definitely believe that. That was definitely the main culture. Like if you were making a game, you had to have the prequel trilogy in there. You had to.
And one of the most famous games from back in our time was Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2.
Legendary game. And what could you do in that game? You could go anywhere, anytime period. There was a big emphasis, and there was like a huge library of people doing like expanded work, like after the Return of the Jedi,
right? Yeah,
before the prequels, things like that. There was a bunch of them. I remember actually when I was a child, I bought one of those books, one of the Star Wars books, and it was about Obi-Wan and Anakin, and I was in Aruba at the time, and I bought it, and I was like, "Ooh, look, a book!" And it was just, it was fluff, it was just fluff, but it was still there.
It's extra stuff, like you get to dive into the world again without having to go through like the movies, or if the show was even out at the time, you don't have to just watch the show.
Yeah. I think it was just, that was what was popping right now. The prequels, the Clone Wars, Jedi at the highest point of their power. It was really fun to dive deeper into that aspect of Star Wars. Maybe because also there was like this technology that went into those films that a lot of people gravitate towards compared to the previous films. Unfair comparison given the time periods that they came out. However, yeah, it was like the idea was they're going to do more with this realm of the universe than the original trilogy. So there was that giant, let's center what we do around this right now.
But even it was more so than that, because I would say it was a little bit more sinister. I do want to mention the Legos. The Legos were a big part of the merchandising as well.
Lego Star Wars.
And there was a bunch of Lego merchandise centered in the prequel trilogy. There was so many droid army and Lego sets, so many of those. I just want to mention that, but they were really common, and they were still common. You could still go into a toy store, a Target, whatever, in 2012 and find prequel era stuff. Once Disney announced it the very next year, and if you look at even the San Diego Comic-Con, where in 2013 they Hasbro announced the new Star Wars action figure, it was all, or recently it was mostly original trilogy stuff. And that was a big shift, and the communities that I was talking with at the time, and like looking back on it, they were like, "Oh, they're finally going back to good Star Wars. No more prequels. Yes, no more prequels." It was something to behold, because they were saying, Disney was kind of saying with their marketing, "Hey, don't worry, we have this under control. We're just going to focus on the original Star Wars, and we're going to leave the prequel trilogy in the dust, and we're going to forget about it." Okay. And that why did that happen? I don't know, but they missed out so much more, I think, on marketing. But I also think it brought in a new era where they were kind of like, "Oh, get these original stuff. You can," and that even was more so because they were even printing out some of the original boxes again, like a rehash of the original branding for the original characters.
Yeah.
Like with the little mini, like the figures, the 5.5, 5.6.
Yeah. The Black Series stuff, or
yes, the Black Series too. Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the beginning Black Series stuff is very skewed towards the OG series.
Very. Yeah. I still see them in like 5 and below stores to this day. It's very skewed towards original trilogy now.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, today is still, we get some things here and there. Like we get a bunch of things. Yeah. Just because the sequel trilogy had its time, and now we see less sequel trilogy stuff.
Oh my god, I don't see any sequel trilogy stuff.
None.
Oh,
None.
man.
It is almost erased.
I think that would be a good point of discussion for if we ever do eventually get to Rise of Skywalker, we need to talk about that impact. But going into The Force Awakens, Disney was shaping it up to be. They announced the trilogy in early 2012, where they were just announcing it. They was like, nope, we're gonna have a trilogy, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna come out year after year after year, and you can expect a Star Wars movie every year. It was like everyone was so excited.
It was the supposed renaissance.
It was. It was an excitement. Yeah,
I remember being excited. I'm like,
too, yeah.
Cool, nice. They're gonna. I've always had this fascination with, George Lucas made the original trilogy back in the late 70s, early 80s. And it's like, this is where he wanted the story to end. And then he made the prequels to say, how he eventually got there. But I've always had this interest in, what about afterwards? Was it just happily ever after, after episode 6? And I would always go into forums at the time and be like, did George Lucas ever write a draft for episode 7? Did he ever have plans for an episode 7? And, you have expanded material, like what Nino's saying, you had your books, your comics and all that stuff, but I wanted a movie. I'm like, just make something. Or if not, let Star Wars die a slow death. So when Disney announces episode 7, I'm like, oh wow, after the original trilogy. I'm excited on that alone, because it's like, so we're gonna see Luke, we're gonna see Han Solo, we're gonna see all these other legacy characters, however far into the future.
Well, that was the hope, is that we would see them.
Right. We didn't know they were going to be in there. We just knew it would take place after the original trilogy. So there was that assumption where it's like, before we got that first trailer where you graciously quoted that line with Han, before we got that, it was like, oh, well, are they going to be in the movie? Are they going to be referenced?
I think you're jumping ahead before the trailer.
No, I'm just saying before the trailer, because the trailer gave us confirmation we are seeing that. But before
No. We had confirmation before the trailer.
We did?
Oh, yeah. Let's take it back. Let's take it back some. Because they built up the hype really well.
All right, so go ahead.
I think, and Nino, you correct me, the first thing they announced is JJ.
They did. They announced JJ in January 2013, right after they announced their trilogy. So they were saying J.J. Abrams is going to direct episode 7. And this was a big, big deal at the time. J.J. Abrams was just coming off of, I don't remember his most recent movie, but
was it Super 8?
I was going to say, I think it was Super 8. I think because
and was Star Trek before or after?
The first Star Trek
was
is
2009, right?
2009. The second one I want to say is
12.
There was a good gap. It might have been 2013 Into Darkness.
Yes. Into Darkness was 2013, or maybe even 2015. There was a big gap.
2013 was Into Darkness.
2013.
Yeah. So he just wrapped up Into Darkness.
Doing press for Into Darkness, or really just wrapped up, because it's January 2013.
I remember being excited with his announcement, because his previous works, I'm like, I enjoyed both Star Trek movies, and I'm not even a Star Trek fan, but I like the movie.
Me neither. Yep.
Yeah, and he did Lost. He had Super 8, Cloverfield. These are all big names, big sci-fi stuff, and everyone's just really excited, and they knew who to pick to start this series, because J.J. Abrams has a specific way of storytelling. He did a TED Talk on it called The Mystery Box. So if you want to fill somebody's up in seats, J.J. Abrams is the man for you, because he'll start you off with these mysteries. He'll lead you down a rabbit hole and say, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? They start getting you questions. And the first title reveal was when we first got The Force Awakens, we were all kind of like, what does this mean? What does this mean? The other movies were very Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. They were very much labeling
to the point. They were to the point.
Very to the point. So The Force Awakens, we were like, what's going on? We don't know any of the plot details, and Disney was tight-lipped.
Very.
I don't remember necessarily when we got confirmation on Luke, Han.
Oh, I got it. I got
Oh,
you.
You
I
got
got you.
it. Okay,
I got
go
you.
ahead.
All right,
Go
I
ahead.
got this. I got this. So everything you said, and then I think he does an open casting call. He's like, there's like 2-3 roles where he wants, an unknown to come play
Yes.
these roles.
Yes.
So he opens the casting call. And then I guess maybe, I don't know the exact timeline, but I know the photo. They release a photo of a table read. And at the table read, let me tell you, there's JJ, there's Kathleen Kennedy, head of Lucasfilm. There's unknown actress,
Daisy
this
Ridley.
girl, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, who at the time had only had this film, Attack the Block.
Yes, Attack the Block. Right.
Attack the
I know
Block,
Attack the
right.
Block.
Oscar Isaac coming off of a critical acclaim with Inside Llewyn Davis. And then in the picture, you see Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter
Oh, that's how you
Mayhew,
saw that.
right? Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, RIP, was not there. He had passed at that time. And your boy. Oh, I'm sorry. Adam Driver. Adam Driver's there too.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then your boy, Mark Hamill. And that was the first confirmation that they're all coming back. And that it's a black and white photo. It's a really cool photo. Because I remember seeing it. I was
Wow.
like, yeah, I was like, oh my God.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You
no,
should look it
I
up.
remember. Yes, I remember exactly what you're talking about. And it was like it was like through a newspaper or something, or like through a magazine.
Something like
it was
that.
very
Yeah.
very big at the time. And yeah, I guess that would be the first confirmation. Like, hey, they're coming back. It's gonna be great. And we don't hear a lot about leading up to the first trailer. We don't hear a lot about the movie. And the first trailer was, I think the trailers are very important to describe the mystery box element.
Oh, yeah.
Because for someone who doesn't follow, I know in today's world, it's so normal for us to be kept in touch. Twitter is 24/7. Reddit is 24. You'll find the Ant-Man Quantumania script leaked on Reddit already.
Yeah,
It's
true.
true. Yeah.
It's been there for like a month. Things
Mhm.
When things happen in the industry, we know about it the second it happens in today's world. But back in 2014, 2015, things didn't work like that.
It was
Things
still
were a lot
kind of in its
slower.
infancy.
Yeah. I blame 5G, but it's just things were a lot slower back then.
Mhm.
And when the first trailer came out, empty desert, right?
Yeah.
And everyone, and they didn't even mention what planet that was. So everyone's
Right.
thinking, oh, we're going back to Tatooine,
That desert.
empty desert. And then boom, John Boyega's face, Black Stormtrooper. He's like, what a way to open that trailer. What a way to open that trailer.
It was perfect. It was perfect. I mean, for better or worse, because I remember the negative vitriol that came from that initial reveal, but that got it trending. That got it talked about amongst every circle. This trailer, it was, whether that was Disney's intent because they had, hey, let's put John Boyega there for the controversy, and it's like, I hope the intent was just like him appearing and just gasping for air. It's almost like it's the fandom kind of like releasing their anxiety, like,
Yes.
We're here. It's here.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And I need to mention this because there's a court case around this right now. And this is one of the biggest offenders, that there are B-roll footage in these trailers that never see the movie itself. And I'll get to one of these in this first trailer, but there's an ominous monologue about, and we never hear this monologue either, about like, there has been an awakening.
Wait,
Have you felt it?
This is in the this is in the movie.
Not in the same way. Not in the same way.
I don't think the "have you felt it" might, but like
you feel it, Mr. Krabs?
it's in the movie. But continue.
but it's not in the same way. That's what I'm saying. And
Okay.
we get to like this point where we see a bunch of images, and then it all builds up to black cloaked figure walking, gets his lightsaber out, and it ignites, and then you see a cross guard. That shot is not in the film.
It is
That
not.
shot
It's not.
is not in the film.
It's not. It's not.
I watched it and I'm like, wait a minute. I remember
and you hear
the trailer.
it. You hear it happening.
Actually, my background is pretty much where that shot would be in the film.
And actually, that
Yes.
shot in your background, that is more for the trailer. It was more zoomed in to where I don't think you saw Rey.
No, these two are not in the shot.
Right.
in
You
the shot,
just
yeah.
see the hand and then, the ignition of the lightsaber and then the cross guard comes out.
Oh, it was probably the most badass lightsaber ignition I had ever seen outside of Darth Maul's.
It's so
Yes.
angry. It has
Yeah,
so much
it's very
anger in it.
angry. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the rest of the trailer shows, action, TIE fighters, the Falcon. When people saw that the Falcon was going to be
Yes.
back, I think it sold them on this movie. And this was Disney really going into full, trust us, we know what we're doing.
Right.
This is gonna be the
John
prequels.
Williams' score too when the Falcon
Yes.
comes on screen.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay, we're in good hands. Okay, Disney, I see you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that was the first trailer.
It didn't.
People lost their
Okay,
mind.
no, never mind. I know. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. That was the first teaser trailer. That's where it ended. Like I made sure because I think I know what you're gonna say.
I know.
Yes.
Because I was like, wait, wasn't that the first trailer too? But no, it was the next one that you're gonna get into.
Yeah. So then the next trailer is the more iconic one, I would say, because it has the Han and Chewie with
Right.
Chewie, we're home. That version of that scene, that's B-roll. That's not in the movie.
It's not in the movie.
It's
Yeah.
very slight, but it's not in the movie. I just gotta keep pointing it out. But all of this was leading up. Even the theatrical trailer didn't show much. I missed those days when trailers didn't show the entire plot of the movie.
Oh God, when trailers were not like 2.5 minutes long and just gave away the entire plot.
Yeah.
What
So
a time.
I have to give credit to J.J. Abrams because he really does know how to market a beginning of a series.
Agreed. I agree.
He really gets you in those seats, and I think
Right.
he had a lot of pull. I think as we continue this talk about the other movies, we'll understand that J.J. Abrams had a lot of control with this movie because all the other ones had a lot of control with their movies as well. I think he had a lot to do with the marketing of this movie as well. He was very selective of, hey, I don't want this in the trailer. I want this instead. I don't want this in the trailer. I want this instead. And he was always leading to misdirection. I do have to, speaking of misdirection, the posters for this movie
Yes.
and the marketing. So, Kylo Ren, masked figure, we don't know who he is. I didn't know who Adam Driver was at the time. I was just like, I don't know who he is. He's just a masked guy. Oh,
right.
Kylo Ren. It shows Rey with her staff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows BB-8. There's Han there with his blaster. And it shows John Boyega's Finn with a not just any lightsaber,
Yep.
with the original Anakin lightsaber.
I think
And
that's important
that's very important because
because
everyone
it threw me through a loop. I
Yes.
thought going into the movie, I was like, oh, he's gonna be the carry on of the Jedi legacy or whatever.
Yes.
In hindsight, and watching the movie again, I was like, was I really bamboozled by this?
Oh no, I definitely. It was a different time.
It was different time. It was different time.
Different
Right,
time.
right.
We weren't as used to getting tricked. Remember, we're living in a post Spider-Man No Way Home world.
Yeah.
But this movie was really a big deceiver. They were really throwing it out there. But John Boyega, yeah.
John Boyega, blue lightsaber, black male lead. That had the black community hype.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there. We hadn't had, all our Star Wars characters get killed.
You had Mace Windu for 3 movies.
Or they
He
were
got
traitors,
killed.
yeah.
And then we
3.
got Lando. Who, I don't know. He's
Ooh,
just
man,
Billy D. Williams in a cape, you know.
Yes.
He's cool, I guess, but that was gonna be our champion. It really was. We didn't even know this guy. We were just like, cool. He's got the lightsaber. Yes, we in there. Let's go.
No, yeah, I remember that being a major selling point where I'm just thinking back to the time when they announced like who was playing who in each of the trailers. They really wanted like I don't want to say no names, but like people that were not out there in terms of like you know, general Hollywood. They didn't want to cast Eddie Murphy as Finn, right?
Yes.
Like easily recognizable, get a fresh face into the role, and then they'll grow into it, and then their careers will skyrocket from there, kind of like what happened with the original trilogy for the most part.
Well, no.
Well,
it's starring in a Star Wars movie has been probably there's always one standout if they're not big already, but usually starring in a Star Wars movie means a death sentence for your career.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. And you kind of see it with the sequel trilogy now with certain you know, actors and actresses you post Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And I will say though, they all they're all working, so good for them. You know, they're all out there in Hollywood. John Boyega's has 3 films coming out soon, or he had 3 films last year. He's
doing good. He's doing really good.
He's good. He's good.
So in terms of if this film bringing John Boyega into my mind as a recognizable actor, good. That's the good. But leading up to this film, there was a lot of hype. I remember when I went to go see it, I was in college, of course.
Oh,
I was in Miami.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize we were in school.
Yeah. And I was in sophomore year, and I remember who I went with. I remember we went to go, and this was during the time of midnight premiere still. I went to go see it midnight premiere. I stayed up and we went, and it was the big grand time. We were all really excited going into this movie. I don't think there was any person that wasn't excited going into this movie.
I can't believe 2015 was 8 years ago. Goodness.
Yeah.
I could have sworn I saw this movie in high school, but goodness.
Oh no.
Okay.
No. This was,
all right. I cannot tell you who I went to see this movie with. I have no idea.
I don't really know who either.
Actually, I feel I saw it a second time with you.
Maybe. I remember the group that I went with for my first watch, my only watch before a couple days ago.
Wow.
This movie.
I resaw this movie now that I think about it 3 times in theaters. And I went to go see it with very different people every time, and we all had a great time. I remember I had a friend named Fabian.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
Grandmaster Hoop knows Fabian. Fabian, if you're listening, shout out to you. But he was so excited for Finn. He said, finally, a character I can relate with in a Star Wars movie.
Sure, yeah, man. It was real. It was real.
Big deal. Oh, and also, now that I mention it, a new game was coming out around the time of The Force Awakens. And it was Star Wars Battlefront. The
original,
the EA, right?
Which was a game, by the way, that only focused on the original trilogy.
Yes.
Yep. No.
That reflects that shift that Nino was talking about. Disney wanted to really push away from the prequels because I guess prequels bad. Prequels bad.
Reasons why I never got.
I never got the first one.
I did. I got it opening. I got it.
Oh God!
First day. And my reaction was, "This game is beautiful."
It was
2 hours later, I was like, "Wow, I'm gonna just put this down." And then I barely played, but I have such nostalgia for that, just because people were so excited for Star Wars that they would play anything. We were deprived of a good Star Wars game.
Starved.
That wasn't. Yeah.
I mean, it was begged for. Battlefront 3 was something that was always begged for after the original Battlefront 2. So to see DICE, who was ahead of their time back then because they, their Battlefield fame and everything, and they're coming in to do Battlefront. It's like, oh yeah, it's in the name. They already got the first 2 syllables in there. So it was perfect. So I see the success of Battlefront, EA's Battlefront. I call it EA's Battlefront. Yeah. And then years later, EA's Battlefront 2 came out, and that one had everything in it. Prequel and sequel.
But then we're going into the movie now. So we're at the movie. The film starts, and rewatching this, I gotta put a disclaimer. I found a lot to love about this movie. Going back on it, I don't think it was the nostalgia. I tried to keep my critical distance away, but I found a lot to love about this movie. And generally, it's really about finding Luke Skywalker, and also generally, it's about A New Hope, but with a new, fresh coat of paint. Those are generally the consensus, but it follows Finn, a former stormtrooper, really interesting, and it also follows Rey, a random somebody from a desert planet that's not Tatooine.
Right.
I don't know why they made Jakku.
It has no character.
I mean, it's as you said, he's trying to hit a lot of the nostalgia of A New Hope. A little too on the nose for me. I will say, as we continue talking about this on this pod, what I am talking through now is my current thoughts. They might have not been my initial thoughts walking out of that theater.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I will say this. I really enjoyed the film walking out. But I look back and I think what I really enjoyed was more of the nostalgia, and now I am here and we're discussing. So it couldn't if it was gonna be a desert, couldn't have just been Tatooine. I don't know. So there you go. Okay.
Well, I mean, you say that, right? And it's funny because it's easy to view this in a hindsight lens, but Star Wars ever since then has had this, I think there's like a proper term for it that the community calls it. They have this Tatooine syndrome where no matter whether it's a movie, a show, a comic, for some reason, Tatooine seems to be at the epicenter of that goddamn galaxy. Or rather,
and no one ever thinks to visit.
No one ever goes. Everything important has happened on Tatooine. And whenever they're trying to find someone important, they're like, oh, they could be anywhere on the Outer Rim, anywhere in the system.
Shouldn't we check Tatooine? Pipe down back there. We're checking every realm of the galaxy but Tatooine.
It's just so frustrating because, again, Star Wars has always emphasized to be this massive galaxy. And it's like, you have these creative minds coming in, whether it be for the shows, the movies, the games, whatever. And it's like, y'all can't think of another planet besides this damn desert. But then J.J. Abrams comes in and it's like, oh, I got one for you. It's still a desert planet, but it's different. It's not Tatooine.
Exactly.
Jakku.
It's Jakku, of course. But I do have to give this movie credit, and I think we can talk about the movie like scene by scene proper now, because there's some good stuff in this movie. The first opening scenes where we get Mysterious Man gives Poe Dameron a random thing to go find Luke Skywalker. We have the impetus for the film. We need to find Luke Skywalker. And he's disappeared. That was the opening crawl. Luke Skywalker disappeared. People need him to come back.
Because the First Order rose in the shadow of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was an interesting concept that, just this concept that if you don't snuff out fascism will always find a way to grow in the shadow of whatever came before it. I think that's a really interesting idea. I don't think that they capitalized on it, but I think it's an interesting idea.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will just say I would have liked to have seen the period of time from 6 to 7 where all this does happen. Because coming into this film after reading the opening crawl, I'm just like, damn, did y'all even try? They are really powerful, this First Order.
Yeah, you destroyed their leading figures and their leading weapon in episode 6. How did they?
The second leading weapon.
The second one, the
second,
rebuilt
right.
one, it wasn't even finished yet.
Did you turn a blind eye to the third?
They
building?
ain't coming back. We defeated them twice.
And I think we were more forgiving because we just wanted something like we just wanted Star Wars at this point.
Yeah.
We were like, give us Star Wars.
And I think that's another thing that JJ realized at the time in making the movie the way that he did it. I think the safest bet to appease everyone is to really go for that nostalgia rather than take the risk that George Lucas took in how he structured the prequels, where it tells a vastly different story than how the original trilogy was, new characters, new locales, all that stuff. But JJ is like, all right, Disney's hovering over his shoulder saying prequel's bad. And so he's like, all right, I got to elicit that nostalgia. Let's make this kind of like A New Hope. Everyone loves A New Hope. No one ever shuts up about A New Hope.
But wait, I think we're forgetting a very key factor in that analysis. Disney may have been doing that, but also J.J. Abrams is a huge Star Wars fan.
Yes,
like he was extremely, and even so, he didn't like. I think he was quoted with saying that he almost didn't want to take this movie because
it's a big task.
He was very nervous to take it. He wasn't as big of a Star Trek fan, and with Star Trek he did really good things, and he had that distance from it that he could kind of experiment with it,
approach
more.
It like just as a filmmaker versus a fan making a film.
Right.
So I think that was really influential in how he structured this film. He's also, I need to say this, he's also a huge fan of Luke Skywalker. So I think when we get to that point near the end of the film, I think that the decision that they make with Luke is more understandable from his perspective as a fan making a film.
Sure.
So we get introduced, and what I love about this film, because there's some really good stuff, the shots in this film depicting like horrors of war. Unfortunately, Star Wars has been fantasized about for so long that we forget what it's about. Yeah, we forget what it's about. And the First Order coming in and wiping out that village, and that was really good. I felt terror. I felt like, oh my God, they're coming and they're just killing everybody. That's something you don't see. And then we get the stormtrooper who falls and like puts blood in a Star Wars movie on a helmet. That was a risky move that I think we were ready for. This was like, I think to me it was saying this was a mature Star Wars film that we were getting. We were going to get a more mature Star Wars film because the prequels kind of leaned a little bit heavily into kids films, except Revenge of the Sith, I mean, it was a kids film, but the kids, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
I'm gonna say this, and because I do too, like kind of that. I mean, he was a little over dramatic with the blood on the helmet. What I will say though is this: I don't know if that is ever matched, as far as kind of just the very kind of close up to what, as you're saying, war being depicted. I don't think we get a scene as real as that scene later on, or throughout the kind of the rest of this trilogy. So I do appreciate that scene, and it does make sense for the character who gets the blood on the helmet, kind of where they go after that point. But continuing with this scene, again, very nostalgic. Here comes the man in black, coming to collect his prize, his trophy, the thing he's out for. Kylo Ren came on the scene. I like Kylo Ren.
I like his name. His name's
got
really
a cool name.
Got a
very cool name. They
Does
even
he remind you of anyone in particular?
I mean, it's giving a skinny, less robotronic Darth Vader. You know,
again,
and
eliciting that nostalgia.
They don't try to overdo it. They don't try to get some James Earl Jones matchup, but so the voice is cool and it doesn't feel over the top. We forget to mention there's Poe. Poe is here. Poe Dameron, young hotshot pilot. And they have a little one-on-one little banter. I think Poe shoots at Kylo Ren,
and he gets stuck, and the shot gets stuck in midair.
I love that.
That's a selling point.
That to me
that's a
was
selling
like,
point
because it's something that's never done in anything Star Wars before, where it's like you get the feeling that if you're very proficient in the Force, you could likely do this, but you never see it. You never see it happen. But
there's a good reason to. There's a good reason, like lore-wise, that ties in with character, why this moment is good.
Okay.
Yes, because when there's a similar moment in Empire where Han Solo immediately starts shooting at Darth Vader, and he just puts out his hand. He's like, he's like just absorbing the shots, and then he's like, just give me the gun. Like,
right.
I have questions about that scene too, but it's okay. We're on this film.
Very silly.
Super badass.
Super badass. The fact that it's stopped, and then he didn't even have to hold his hand out. It's just, it's there. It's stuck. I don't have to concentrate anymore on it. That was cool. I like that.
Yeah, and then we have this whole interrogation, and of course we have the giving of the map to the droid, which is kind of its own ceremony in this trilogy.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Very much.
And droid goes out into the desert. They interrogate. They have like a back and forth, interrogate Poe, and they find out. He's on. We get introduced with a lot of things very quickly. Like we get introduced to Captain Phasma, and she's like Finn 8127 or whatever his number is.
Oh my god! I'm sorry.
What?
Can we talk about Captain Phantasma real quick? Is
Phasma.
Phasma. Oh my god! Going back to the trailers, I remember people being very hyped for this Commander Stormtrooper. I was hyped for this Commander Stormtrooper.
Okay, God, there was.
You remember this, right? We were all. Oh my god! One of the biggest crimes that they did with.
There
Captain
were a
Phasma.
lot of people at that table read who I'm forgetting to mention. That's Gwendolyn Christie.
Yes. Yes.
And
the height
rightfully
of Game of Thrones was this time.
Right. It was very smart to cast someone from Game of Thrones in your show. Not only do you cast someone, one, you cast a woman, which we need more women in Star Wars at this time, I think. Two, she's a captain. Three, she's in this badass armor. And four, it's
shiny. It's
shiny.
It screams merchandise.
It's Brienne of Tarth. It's Brienne of Tarth too, and it's just
she's got to be a badass. She
better be a badass because she kicks ass on Game of Thrones. Let her come over here and kick some ass on that. Like, come on. Mm-hmm. Yes, more hype. Good hype.
More hype. Remember, this is trailer. This is trailer hype.
Oh yes, this is trailer. Yes.
And this first scene does a really good job of establishing what the First Order is, who this movie should be about. I have to say it really loud because the first scene in this film is Poe, Finn, and Kylo Ren.
Ooh.
Think about that. Poe, Finn, and Kylo Ren.
Trifecta.
And they all have, and it's not just one scene that continues going on. They go into different places. Finn is like having an identity crisis because he saw someone die, and he was just like, should we be mass murdering right now? I don't think so. I don't think genocide was on the agenda. And we have these characters. So then we get changed into, the Rey portion, who the movie is about. And we get to see her in Jakku, and, she's a scavenger. She goes down a little hill. We hear the John Williams score. And this is a note. John Williams was actually sick while composing for this film.
Oh, wow.
So people noted at the time that, his compositions weren't as great as like his other works with Star Wars. So they were like, oh, we like the Rey one, but there was a lot of reuse of other Star Wars themes. And and it was because he was sick during this time, I think.
Right.
So that's just something to like add in there. But this Ray theme, like ding, 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 it's it's interesting. It's and we get more back and forth. Finn and Poe escape. This instant chemistry between them. Very like they really needed to star in a movie themselves and just go back and forth.
Well, let me say it was I like this idea to explore the stormtrooper and challenge the idea of whatever it is they have in their head as should we be mass murdering? Well, we've never had a stormtrooper character. We've had clones, which is their own thing in their own right, which is excellently done in the Clone Wars and whatnot. But we don't know what a stormtrooper is. So to have a stormtrooper, which is a Star Wars staple, be a main character, was a very intriguing choice, and I like that. And he takes off the helmet, rescues Poe, grows a conscience. I like that we're getting this.
Yeah.
And I'm invested still. I'm still invested at this point in the film.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I think, and then there was like this like airship battle where they were trying to the TIE fighter. That was really good. That was really
Very
exciting.
nostalgic. Yep.
Yeah, and not only nostalgic, but it was like building their characters. Like Finn was like, "How do I shoot this?" And Poe was like, "I'm the best, fighter pilot in the rebellion," and they or the resistance, and they crash land.
The resistance.
But then they
Two
crash
different things.
Yeah, they crash land on Jakku. Rey already met BB-8, and then the TIE fighter blows up, and then we get this shot with Finn, and he's just in the desert, and he's shedding his
armor.
his stormtrooper armor,
Right.
which I think is very metaphorical, where he's wearing black. He's coming out of depravity, only with something that someone gave him, like the hope that someone gave him to keep moving forward. I think that's really great storytelling. Completely great storytelling.
I'm very much still invested at this point in the film. I'm here.
Yes. And then we get to Rey and Finn meeting. They have chemistry too. There was like this moment where I questioned, and I know that a lot of people online, especially a lot of the communities that don't like women, are like, Mary Sue, Rey's a Mary Sue, and she's an ultra feminist, they're taking over, and they just. But there was a moment in this film that didn't seem like a little like natural. Like I get it, but they never kept up with it in like throughout the film, where Finn tries to take her and like hold her hand to run, and she was like, "Don't hold my hand. I don't need you to hold my hand."
Let go of my hand. What?
Yeah, it was just like, what's going on? I will say on Jakku, we do start seeing instead of CGI characters, we see people in like suits and puppets,
prosthetics,
practical
costuming,
effects.
Practical effects. Yeah,
that was a major concern. I guess kind of going back to the J.J. Abrams thing, that it was a question of what were we gonna do in 2015 in a 2015 Star Wars film? Are we gonna do the George Lucas thing where everything CG, everything, no more puppeteering, no more practical effects. And I remember JJ was actually really happy to use practical effects. I remember he was very prideful with like how they got BB-8 to work. How he's like a rotating ball but his head never moves as he's rotating. I always thought that was kind of cool, however they got that to work.
BB-8's, speaking to the practical effects, BB-8 sound effects are like a computer board.
Oh, yes, like very techno.
Run by Bill Hader.
Really?
So
Stop.
This is an Abrams-ism, as I will call them, because he has a bunch of actors in this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Gets no like credit, but they're like, "Ooh, but they were here." Daniel Craig is a stormtrooper somewhere.
He's in the scene. I think Ray tells him to unlock her.
Yes, I
That's
think that
Daniel
was him.
Craig.
That's
Apparently.
Daniel freaking Craig.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
The guy that tries to sell Ray the portions.
That's Simon Pegg.
That's Simon Pegg from Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you know, him and JJ did Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so there's just a bunch of people that, and I again, the hype around this movie was even in the industry. People want to be in a Star Wars movie, even if it's like they just want to be on set and like do something for the characters.
It could be the worst movie ever. I'm in Star Wars. It doesn't matter.
I think it just keeps going from here. I think in the next 2 films, there's an equal amount of stars that appear. Yeah.
I think lessons, but this one is definitely the one where they're unrecognizable. Like you don't ever see them. We just hear them from like a newspaper. But continuing, we have Ray, we have Finn. They're running. BB-8 is adorable, by the way. Absolutely adorable. All the scenes
Very
in BB-8 in this movie, I was like, wow. They knew how to sell merchandise because this little ball was so cute.
Oh yeah, that
so
thing.
cute.
Toy stores. It was sold out everywhere.
Yeah,
easily.
And basically, they're running from the stormtroopers that are trying to get them because they want to get BB-8. And then the first meta joke in the movie. We're gonna take that one. That one's junk. We're not gonna take that one. We're gonna take this one. That one blows up. Okay, the junk will do, or the garbage will do, and then the camera literally turns to reveal the Millennium Falcon.
Dun-dun, dun-dun. And I think they play that little bit of the score and more nostalgic.
This is where, yes, nostalgic, yes, but this is where I have to question the Millennium Falcon, the ship that made the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs. The famous ship is on a planet and no one cares about it.
No one.
I think that's a little bit of an oversight, especially since there was a person upstairs who we'll find out later who really would care to know about that ship.
And this is kind of where I didn't realize this watching it in my initial viewing back in theaters. Having watched it again now, there's a lot of coincidental things in this movie. What are the odds that the main characters of this film are getting into a legacy aircraft or spacecraft, the Millennium Falcon? But there's plenty of scenes that we'll get into where I'm like, wow, what are the chances of this happening? And it's like, it kind of pulls me out a little bit because I'm like, isn't the galaxy huge? But then I forget the desert planet. There's only like 1 or 2 desert planets in the whole galaxy. So,
well, dare I say, you know, it's like they're cutting corners in the storytelling for pure nostalgia. It's like, let's not explain kind of what's going on here, but we know you're gonna love it. And it's like, yeah, we love it, but you know, yeah, it's like too coincidental. It's like, again, that's why I say I wish we kind of had that period filled in, you know, to kind of make up for a lot of these questions. And they will come up, and I will expand more when they come up. But the Millennium Falcon's here, they're in it. There's no way they can fly it. I mean, she's just a nobody on a desert planet.
Oh, God.
He's a stormtrooper who can't fly a TIE fighter. There's no way they're gonna be able to fly this thing.
To be fair, to be very fair, Luke only had to be fair, Rey was only driving those little speeders around everywhere. Luke she had a speeder in the film, like a speeder.
Oh, the big one. Was it that big one?
Up.
No, it wasn't the thing that blew up.
It wasn't the thing that blew
up.
It
was that. There's that clunky.
Yeah, it was
rectangle one.
Yeah, that she
the
went
red thing.
to. No. It looks like it, but it's one that she went to scavenge from. So has experience at least flying in a desert. All I'm saying is Luke also had that same experience. It's just a speeder in the desert, and he led an entire fleet to destroy the Death Star in the first.
That
That's
was
all.
1977 though. I feel like in 2015 the level of storytelling has to adapt and not just be, oh well, they did it in 77. I think New Hope was 77.
Well, I think Luke also had some training. They alluded to.
Right.
They alluded to.
There's a line, and it's a blink and you miss it with Rey, where post flying sequence, she basically says, oh, I've never flown like that before. I've only flown like some small aircraft. She never explains like in what context or what was her experience like, but it kind of somewhat explains that she's not entirely green when it comes to flying something like the Millennium Falcon.
I missed that line.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's during the sequence where they're both yelling at each other, Finn and Rey, and it's like a back and forth, and it's like, okay, you gotta have the subtitles on.
Yeah, they were very, but again, it was the same thing in the original Star Wars. I'm not gonna fault this movie because this movie, the intention of this movie was that we were supposed to view Rey as, and we were supposed to start questioning again the mystery box. We had to question everything, so we had to come in and question, how can Rey fly the Millennium Falcon? How can Rey know about the Millennium Falcon circuitry and do this and that? And it's things that she's picked up over the years of scavenging, right? But there's also certain things that are supposed to be not make sense, because the title of this movie is called The Force Awakens. So just leaving that there.
No, that's fine. And dare I say, I think there's also some other stuff. It's like, ooh, why is Kylo Ren looking at FN 2187 during the Jakku sequence? Why does Kylo Ren know exactly that it's FN 2187 in the TIE fighter?
You forget one thing. The movie title, The Force Awakens, only applies to Rey.
Sure.
The moment that you apply it to Finn, the movie starts breaking down.
Listen, I'm just saying, we got a nice little side by side. Not to mention, I don't think FN 2187 has ever shot out of a TIE fighter. With working controls, does great. Millennium Falcon, controls go wonky, does great still.
Yep.
All right. I would just like to keep running this side by side as we continue down this film. It's very interesting.
The Force is with them. But basically they escape, they meet Han and Chewie. I'm not even going to address this scene. I feel like it's a little out of place because it was kind of, so I have a way of viewing this movie. I think that Act 1 doesn't end until after this scene specifically. I think once they leave Jakku and then they meet up with Han and Chewie, and then Han and Chewie get them out of the situation with the blob tentacle monsters.
Those and the gangsters show up, right?
Yeah. Once we get that scene with Han, and it's great to see Harrison Ford and Chewie back. It's great to see them. Very nostalgic, but when they put on the map, and then he says, I hate to tell you this, but it's real. All of it's real. The Force, everything. That's a great scene. And
to quote my favorite TikTok video, it's corn. Because it's corny. It's corny. But
goodbye.
That was no.
I thought that was one of the most genuine parts of the film, because it shows where Han is at right now. Like, he's obviously running from something, but he's accepted that the Force is real, and he's even trying to inspire people, from it, in his own way. But that is where I feel Act 1 ends for this movie.
Sure, I
So
think that's
we had a
fair.
very big Act 1 because all of the players that we see throughout the film, you have Han, you have Chewie, you have Finn, you have Rey, Poe is in there. Kylo Ren is the antagonist of the film. All those people have been introduced, and this is who the movie's about. That's why I'm saying Act 1 ends there. It's a really long Act 1. It's like an hour long of this 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
So we move into the, they're like, oh, we have to get this thing to Luke Skywalker, join the Resistance, and blah 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 blah, right? Sure. Han's like, I'm not gonna take you there. And they're like, why not? Aren't you a Resistance general? And Han's like, no, not really. Sorry. And he even like throws Finn a word. He's like, women always find out the truth. Because he knows that Finn is lying. Finn has just been lying this entire time. And there's been some like funny humor here and there, like, oh, you got a boyfriend, cute boyfriend? And then Rey's like, that's none of your business.
This is
some
where
of
the
that-
movie starts to lose me a little bit. I'm gonna be like post Act 1, because like you kind of had those mystery boxes that were really interesting, like who is Kylo Ren? Is he a Sith or is he not? How does he know, what's this new lightsaber that he's using? Right around this point is where I'm starting to realize this movie's got problems, but it has good moments. It still has good moments for him from here on out, but man, just I have so many problems with this movie from here. But I'm sure we'll get into it. This is around the point though where I'm kind of like zoning in and out. I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? Han's being hard to get right now.
Well, dare I say, it's at this point where I think they really start to lean on more of kind of this nostalgic factor.
Yeah.
Han and Chewie are, taking kind of the forefront of this group, and they're dictating and leading and showing them the ropes. It's kind of a passing of the torch. So much of it being a passing of the torch, they're just kind of be like, okay. Mm-hmm.
I just wish that that was more emphasized in the film. I wish we got more adventures with them than just going to see Maz. But also, I have to mention that the big mystery around Kylo Ren was solved in dialogue.
It was
not a big reveal.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. I don't even think Kylo was in the shot when it was revealed.
Well,
it
no, technically
conversation.
No. It was in the. I mean,
he was in the scene, but not in the shot.
Well, the first bit was in actually the very beginning, when old man Max von Sydow, aka the Three-Eyed Raven, said, some would call your mother a princess, or something like, or he called him royalty. So you're like, royalty, okay, so that must be Leia related. And then we haven't been talking about these scenes because I forget where they are interluded at, but they go talk to Snoke.
Yeah, Snoke, and when you first see him, you think, oh, Snoke is just a big guy. He's huge in this film. And I think everyone thought for a second, like, I guess this is where we're going to go from here. He's just a big guy doing big guy things.
Where did this guy come from?
Yeah, I just really dislike that how Snoke is used in this film. I dislike Snoke. I dislike him. I don't like any rendition that he's been in.
He's just a Palpatine. Or an emperor.
Well, no,
you could say he was just a Palpatine.
Yeah, like it's just he's the big bad. I mean, if the Darth Vader comparison was not more on the nose, you have Kylo Ren reporting to the real big honcho behind the scenes. And what are the odds he's another flaky, old-looking character that looks like he's decrepit, but he's likely really powerful. But we're not going to see exactly what he can do in this movie. We'll probably see it in the sequel or in the end of the trilogy. So yeah, that I didn't like Snoke either. Like, I was intrigued in the sense of like, who is he? Where did he come from? Is he like a remnant of the Sith? Like, what is his deal? But in terms of like I guess creativity and trying to create like something new and different for this movie, it's like, okay, this is just Palpatine. Kylo Ren's Darth Vader. This is Palpatine, and he's not even a really interesting Palpatine. At least the Emperor in the original trilogy had like just the way he spoke. I just liked the way he talked. Seduced by the dark side. I don't know. I can't do it.
I mean, this dude only gas for like, I think he only has going for him. Really, if we're being honest, it's Andy Serkis, and people were like, Andy Serkis is doing some mocap for Star Wars. That's really cool. We're in there for Andy Serkis. But again, the more it keeps revealing, you're just like, oh, this is cut and paste. This, as you said, Dr. Jace, it's just a less interesting Palpatine. Yeah. And he's clearly manipulating Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I hate about this Snoke dilemma, and I'm going to keep bringing this up as we go through the movies, Snoke steals any agency that Kylo Ren could have for the sake of mystery. And then he ruins the mysteries that he has. So I don't think they knew how to write Snoke. I also think that J.J. Abrams was putting Snoke in. And there was a lot of, we got revealed about like, oh, this mysterious Snoke was pulling all the strings. And a lot of people thought it was Darth Plagueis that survived.
I remember the theories. There was a lot of interesting theories about who Snoke really was.
We'll definitely come back to that in The Rise of Skywalker. But it has been confirmed that J.J. Abrams was like, there was a lot of things that we wanted to do in that film, but because people guessed where we were taking the film, we changed it in like the last film. So
oh my god, that is just so dumb.
Yeah, that is, and it's also probably why Rian Johnson decides to take The Last Jedi where he takes it, which we'll get to in another episode. We're on The Force Awakens right now. Sure. So this second act is very messy, but if you view it from Poe having a character arc, this movie starts to make sense.
You said Poe?
Poe?
Yeah, no, Poe, not Poe. Sorry, Finn. Finn having a character arc.
Yes,
because he wants to leave the First Order. He wants to get away, and he's so scarred by what he has seen that he's like, and he's latched on to Rey. That he's like, please, I need someone to come with me. And he's basically like, he lets it all out to Maz Kanata. And Maz Kanata just calls him out. And he's like, they're like, if you don't fight for this now, you're never going to fight for it. No one's ever going to fight for anything. And Poe kind of just like, I'm fine with that. I'm going to go live my life somewhere. And he tries to convince Rey. Rey has that Force vision, which is really cool. From the lightsaber after that whole scene. And Maz Kanata, I guess, is a Force sensitive. I'm blasting through this because this is how it felt like seeing it in the movie. There was a lot going on, like scene after scene after scene after scene of just things happening. And the only time that I ever saw that there was character work being done was Finn. Finn had to make the most choices in the film. Finn had to, decide to, go back on like running away from the First Order. And that event that caused it was because they saw multiple planets being blown up by Big Death Star Part 3.
Okay. All right. Let's double back some real quick.
Ahead.
Not too much. You're right. Finn is getting the most character work done. At this point in the story, I am still invested because of Finn. I'm really invested in this story going on with him. I'm even invested in Rey's story because I'm like, okay, Rey's gonna be an apprentice to Han Solo, you know.
Yes.
And I like that. I like that a lot because, you know, it's the connectivity. It gives, you know, her character something to do because, you know, her whole character arc is, you know, she wants to be on Jakku waiting for her parents to come back. But here's this grand opportunity, you know, that works for me. That angle really works for me. And then you bring up the Force tunnel where she has the vision. And I'm like, shouldn't Finn have this vision? And I hate sitting through it in the movie being like, they definitely led Finn to kind of have this vision where he's scared to face the First Order, and God forbid he is Force sensitive and has to become a Jedi, because then he'll have to take him face on, you know, like head first, you know.
Don't stop teasing me with a good story.
But you see what I'm saying? So when they do it with Rey, I'm like, all right, cool. Where's Finn's vision? But you know, nah, Finn's already out the door. He's trying to be gone. And then, as you said, they bring out the weapon. Mind you, the Force vision scene is kind of cool. You hear the voices of Samuel L. Jackson. You hear a bunch
Yoda.
of voices. You hear Yoda. You hear Ewan McGregor. You even hear
Luke screaming, "No!"
You hear Alec Guinness. You hear like a lot of past voices.
You hear, most importantly, Ewan McGregor at the very end. These are your first steps.
Right. So very, very cool scene. I would like to pull.
And we also see like Kylo like killing the Knights of Ren. We finally see the first instance of Luke in the film.
Oh yeah,
puts
the
a
hand
on R2D2, which we haven't seen in the film either. R2D2 has been absent the whole film.
He's not here. You're right.
He puts a hand on it, and then we just someone just, you know, commits mass murder. But it's a cool scene. I just don't like, and also, isn't Maz Kanata Lupita?
That's Lupita. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely thought she would have not this kind of role where she's playing a CGI character. Thought she'd be on screen, but you know, listening to her voice, she has very great diction. She sounded old. She did a great job. Let me just say too, the performances throughout this movie, I don't think I have a problem with any performance in this movie.
Everyone knocked it out of the park. From every single person. I think the hype of coming back. Oh, Dr. Jace, do you have something to say?
Oh, performances?
Yeah.
I think John Boyega overdid his performance, but I have a reason for that. I think it's best say for when we're doing like summaries of like the characters, because I think we're going kind of scene by scene. I don't want to jump ahead because there's my problems with it's not just only with Finn, it's also with Rey, but I think it makes more sense by the time we get to the end of the movie because we would have talked about all the scenes already. So I'll save it for that point.
Don't forget.
I won't. Trust me, I won't.
So yeah, and at this point, then the First Order comes in and they're like tracking down Han Solo, and they're trying to get the droid. You know, they're like cut and dry paste. We need to get the droid. And they take Rey. I'm you know, there's that moment, that trailer moment. Traitor!
Oh my God. It's one of the best moments in the film. I don't care what I say later. That was one of the best moments in the film. Traitor!
This fool would quote that scene so often.
It was perfect.
It was not.
Oh my God.
I just have a question. Why couldn't that be Phasma?
Yeah. Why? That was a perfect captain. Wait, is it Phasma or Phasm?
Phasma.
Yeah,
Captain Phantasm. Okay.
No, not
but yes, no, that was a perfect Captain Phasma moment. But they give it to an NPC stormtrooper who was, you know, very adamant that he's a traitor. How dare he? He betrayed he had Finn in his line of sight, and he could have just shot him. He could have just shot him, but
it honestly would have made more sense. It really would have made more sense for Captain Phasma to have that. and then have the cool action scene, and then Finn could like not win but also
Yeah.
not lose,
Perfect.
and then he just escapes and he's like, I gotta get out of here, and then the resistance comes and everyone's like, oh, the resistance is here, and Finn's like, where's Rey? And then
Oh man, don't worry. I'll come back to this. Don't worry.
he sees Rey get like shipped off, and he's very adamant. He's like, I know I wanted to run, but I'm choosing to stay behind and go get Rey. He has agency in this film. He has so much agency in this film. He was hyped up in the marketing, and I'm not complaining that Rey's a bad character. But it's clear to me that because of they wanted to misdirect the audience, they forgot how to tell a good story first.
Rey suffers from being surrounded, by poor storytelling. Yes. As we're saying, they're building up Finn, giving him a lot of this agency. I feel Rey's only agency is, I want to be on Jakku to wait for home.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you look at the hero story, the classic hero story, Joseph Campbell, all these things, there's a moment in the story, in the 10-part like structure that he noticed, where the hero has to refuse the call. And they tried to do that in the second act of the movie. Maz Kanata was like, whoever you're gonna go see is not gonna, you're already off the planet. But if you got off the planet, you should have already been on board with everything. You know what I mean? When Luke got off Tatooine, he originally said no, and then he went back and found his caretakers dead, and he was like, I guess I gotta do this. When Anakin had his moment where Qui-Gon was like, hey, I'm just gonna take you, and he was like, I'm kind of in slavery, my mom's kind of in slavery, I can't go until I can win back my freedom. There was a denial there, but then they try to shove it in for Rey in the middle of the movie, and this is where they were like, oh, I'm going to rush all the plot points with Rey because I want to build up mystery. Rey is a good conceptual character. Rey is not a good, executed character because they're all putting focus on Finn. So, again, misdirection and mystery box over storytelling. But I digress. We get to the scene that we all been waiting for since Han appeared on screen. Han and Leia reuniting.
Wasn't waiting for it, but I was not. I really wasn't.
I was surprised when it happened. Like, oh, Leia, okay, because she wasn't in the trailers, right? She wasn't in the trailers.
No, she's in the trailers. There's a shot of her and Han hugging.
Okay.
Okay. Just at this point, I don't know.
I mean, it was nice to see them because in the sense of you don't know what terms they left on, because clearly Han was hinting at, I'm not with her right now because of, our past together, whatever that past was. So that to see them now here together, it's like, ooh, what's going to happen? Do they hate each other or what's wrong?
The nicest thing that happens from their reunion, I guess it's, if you didn't have confirmation already, I saw Leia, I saw our son.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren. That's their son. That is why they had a falling out, those two, over the loss of their son.
And just to confirm, you don't know what his real name is yet, right?
No.
Kylo Ren's. Okay, he's our son. Okay.
But why who cares at this point? We know that's their son.
Well, no, I mean, it ultimately doesn't matter what his
well,
name
for all
is.
we know, that Kylo Ren would be his name. We don't even know that's this fake name.
Right. It's like, oh, Kylo, come back to mommy and daddy. But, later on, they do that, the name call. It's like, oh.
In a better version of this movie, if he takes Rey, I would have had a stare down between him and Han Solo, and I also wouldn't have revealed that that's, you know, Han Solo's son, but I would like have like a stare down where he's like holding Rey and looking back at Han Solo, looks at Rey, looks back at Han Solo, and then like tightens his grip and like walks into the ship, and Han is just like struggling to shoot him. Like he could have stopped him, but he struggles to shoot him. You know, like he doesn't shoot him. He just puts his gun down and it flies away while Finn is like screaming Rey. You know, in a better version of this movie, I wouldn't have revealed it so quickly. I would have waited for this scene to reveal it.
Let me say, Kylo Ren is able to know when Han Solo gets on the Death Star planet later on, but I don't think he makes it a point that he knows that Han Solo was on the pirate planet. Little gap.
Again, this they thought up ideas like facts, and then they were like, how can we turn it into a mystery, and then worked from there. That's how they made this film, because it only makes sense that, of course, you have to know that Kylo Ren is Ben Solo at this point of the movie for this scene with Han and Leia to make sense. You know, you have to know that Rey's Force sensitive for this next scene with him or her and Kylo to make sense. You know what I mean? Instead of leaving things to naturally happen, things just, that's where the coincidence, like, oh my god, it's a coincidence.
This is where it's, I mean, it started to lose me before with like the Millennium Falcon, and it's like there, but then from here it's like a domino effect. A lot of coincidental events where I'm supposed to believe these things are happening for the sake of the plot moving forward, but it's like at that point it's kind of pulling me out because I don't believe what's happening on screen.
And it really is, I'm gonna say the meme joke here, but if I had a nickel for every time a random piece of ancient Jedi, or not ancient, but important Jedi artifact was recovered by somebody and just happened to show up in The Force Awakens, I'd have 2 nickels. It's weird that it happened twice. Like, because we have the blown up, what's supposed to be blown up mask of Darth Vader, or burned mask of Darth Vader that Luke burned on Endor, and then we have Luke's original lightsaber. It got Cloud City is a poisonous planet. Cloud City, you can only live in the clouds.
That lightsaber fell through the entire planet and came out on the other end, floated around in space.
That's not how gravity works. That's not how gravity works.
It's not.
I don't know what to tell you.
So this is what happened. The Force guided the lightsaber down the shafts, and Maz Kanata was conveniently stationed in a ship right there, and then it went boop, and then she flew off with it. We don't ever get it explained in the movie why she has it. The real reason why she has it is because they wanted to make a mystery and they wanted to sell lightsabers. They wanted to sell lightsabers.
It's a legacy lightsaber too.
Yeah, yes. So exactly, different box, same product.
Yes. Oh wow, they just sell it again.
So yeah. So yeah, and then the rest of this sequence happens with Finn lying to the Resistance basically to try and get Rey. He's like, "Yeah, I know how to."
I'll get you in there. There's a ventilation shaft that they forgot to clog up. If you shoot a torpedo in there, you can blow down the whole system. Just gotta lower the shields. Let's go get Rey.
Yeah, and Rey has this moment where she becomes not only Luke but also Obi-Wan. So she has that interrogation scene and fights back Kylo, and Kylo takes off his mask finally, and we find out that he's just like a little whiny emo boy that shops at Hot Topic in this movie. So
there were a lot of memes that came out of the face reveal for Kylo Ren. It's like, oh man, you should have kept the mask on, dude. I was more intimidated.
More memes though came from
the
shirtless.
chest, the shirt.
But
Yes,
we're not
that's
there
the
yet.
Last Jedi.
I know.
We're
Let
not
me
there.
stop. We're not
But-
there yet. Sorry.
So yeah, basically Kylo Ren then runs to his master. He's like, she's strong with the Force. Please, Dad, help me. She's strong with the Force.
Bring her to me, son.
Yeah, and Rey's kind of like doing the Jedi mind trick,
Oh,
learning how to
man.
use the Force.
Ugh.
How did she know how to do this?
This
But
is
Right,
this
right.
is
Again,
where
I don't want to sound like a a guy who doesn't like women on
an
the internet.
incel,
I don't want to sound like one of them. But,
but
this is just a flaw in the movie that
major
randomly she
flaw.
picks things up. And I'm not saying that it's bad on her character. I would have liked to see this, but it's just like, how
right.
would she have known?
It's
How would she have
some
known?
yeah, it's something to where, because again, it kind of goes back to her whole thing being an ace pilot with the Millennium Falcon. I like the concept of Rey. I just don't like how it was executed in the film. There's a version of this film where I believe at some point, yes, she could have learned the Jedi mind trick if she was taught properly how to use it, or there was some hint at her picking up on it throughout the movie for whatever reason. But when I just saw her do that, just pull that straight out of her ass without any prior knowledge, I'm just like, she is adept at everything that's needed for the plot to move forward. She's a perfect pilot. Therefore, they're able to escape from the First Order in the first act of the film. She's adept at the Force, so she's able to break from her shackles and Jedi mind trick a stormtrooper. She's also adept in another area that we haven't got to yet, so I'll save
That one's
it for
more
that.
believable. That one's more believable.
Oh, I don't. Oh,
Listen,
man.
it's very simple. They're going for nostalgia, but when you go for nostalgia, you have to understand certain things make sense that you're pulling from. Obi-Wan doing the Jedi mind trick
I believe
makes
it. I believe
it makes sense because he's a Jedi master. He's just been in hiding this whole time. You have no idea what tricks he's got up.
Maybe
his
he's picked up
sleeves.
even more stuff in his old age. It's been
Exactly, and he
28
has, and he
years.
literally does, right?
Right.
And then Rey, though, I can buy she is adept at things, or just has a natural strength.
I don't
But
mind the sensitivity. Like,
Right,
like when
right.
Kylo's doing the mind thing,
Yes.
whatever, I don't mind that. I like that she's kind of pushing back a little bit.
Because that's just raw, kind of natural instinct.
Right, affinity.
The
There's an
Jedi
affinity
mind
to it.
trick.
So now we have to question, would this scene work in an anime? If you had we got the inside monologue of Rey, I think the scene could work, because then she'd be like, I wonder if I could do that to him. Kylo did that to me and try and get into my mind and make me do things. I wonder if I can do that to this stormtrooper and get escape. Finn must be looking for. If we had like an anime scene, like akin to like Death Note, where he's like,
the
Rey's
eyes
just
going
talking
And then I
across.
take a chip and I make him unlock me from the shackles.
it would work, but again, we're not in an anime. We're in a big blockbuster.
Well,
And
I
then
mean-
she
Right.
starts climbing around like Obi-Wan in the first film.
But I get it too, because after you just said that, I thought, Finn and them can just rescue her and just like get her out. That's kind of them trying to be like, she's not a damsel. She's capable. She can handle herself. So she gets out, as you said, and she's capable. She's a strong female lead. I don't think she needs to be a strong female lead at the cost of
Believability.
believability, right? But here we are. She's out. They regroup really fast.
Very quickly. They see her on the other side
After
of
first-
of the
Italy.
oh, the what? You cut off for a second.
Oh, I said coincidentally they see her.
Oh, again with the
And
coincidental
this
event.
giant ass base. This base is as big as a planet. The weapon
Literally.
is in the planet.
Finn sees her. He's like, "Oh, look, Rey's getting out," and then in the next second, bam, right there in
Oh.
front of her.
Not to mention, they needed to find Captain Phasma to lower the shields. There she comes around the corner.
Wow. We found the leader of this entire base just
casually
down.
walking with no guard, and she didn't,
What a missed
again,
opportunity. That could have been a fight. Like maybe they
but
try sneaking up on
they
her.
were trying to be
No,
they were trying to be stealthy.
They're trying to be I see a version of this movie where like they try to be stealthy, and like because Finn is just a general clown in the film, he slips on a banana peel and Captain Fantasia 2000 sees him and she's like, oh, a traitor. And they have a brief fight, isolated without alerting anyone. And you have the fight in the movie that you wanted. And I don't know, Finn wins somehow. And then you get the scene that you want afterwards, which is like, lower the shields right now.
So I'm like, okay with them not fighting, only because I'm like, oh, well, they're going to use her later.
Yeah.
I hate it more. You know the answer to that.
Whoa.
You know the answer to that.
We're only watching this film in 2015. We don't know anything.
I'm telling you what I thought when I was watching it. I was like,
I had my 2015 viewing, which I remember enjoying, and then I have my 2023 one where I'm like, wow, problems everywhere.
Yeah. And then we have, we get to moving and there's a lot of action. They invade the planet. The shields are down and they're trying to like blow thing up. It's action, it's fiction, and then they realize that they have to blow the metal thing on top of the air shaft,
Right.
so that they can get a better chance, right? And they set bombs, and Han's there, and then they have that big scene with Kylo Ren and Han Solo. I love this scene. This scene's good.
This is probably the best scene in the movie, maybe.
You have good
arguably.
imagery with because at the same time you have Finn and Rey coming in, and from behind them they have like this light shot where it's the star being drained from the base, and it's like this last ray of hope that even Han says it himself. He's like, no, it's never too late. Come join us. And everything's in darkness. Everything's dark in that area.
The colors, yes.
I really like
outside. Yes,
Oh,
and
this
then
was
the
good,
red. Yeah.
The red, yes.
It's very good. And I have to. This is where I have to give J.J. Abrams credit, because he does really well with these close-up shots, and just shooting this film. It really did feel like on a shot-for-shot basis, he had an idea about what he wanted to do, and he just went in and did it.
Right.
It's less so apparent in the other films. This film, I feel like, did it best. When we get to the other films, we'll get to them, but I feel like this film did it best, and there's such good character work there. He's letting the audience interpret what's happening inside the characters without using dialogue. Fantastic scene.
Very good.
It's and then Han is just like, please, like, we see Harrison Ford acting, and the
sometimes a hard thing to ask him to do.
Yeah. The ignition of the lightsaber, I think, broke everyone's heart. Like, we wanted.
I like the timing of it though too, because it's like, again, a little bit of that misdirection. You get a really good performance from Adam Driver, where you really think he's reconsidering everything that he's done up until that point. He's very just, seemingly he seems to be regretful of like, oh, maybe I can be saved. Maybe it is not too late. And you get this timing. And again, JJ did it very well in this shot. Once that star is drained of all the light, that light that was shining on Ben and Han, it then becomes complete darkness. And you get that you get that red hue, not from the lightsaber, but like there's a red hue in that area.
From the thingies.
Yeah, the little lights all around. And so at that point, because before then, I think Kylo had offered his lightsaber already to Han, as if like, oh wow, he's really gonna come back. But once the light from that star goes away, it's like, no, he has other plans.
Yep.
I will do what I need to.
People have their theories on how that scene went down. I think that's better if we save it for, I guess, the end of this trilogy, when this scene comes back up. But yeah, I thought probably the best scene in the movie. I think we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Given how very much it was like, oh, they're really playing on the nostalgia. This is the equivalent to, if you strike me down, I will come back more powerful than ever. Obi-Wan said to Darth Vader. And you knew it was going to be Luke, or you knew it was going to be Han, who probably have to, fall on the sword. Ha ha ha. Literally.
See there, that was a good pun. That one was actually good.
Thank you. Which is, and I guess it works. It's kind of we've been fed all this nostalgia throughout this run, but then it was like, damn, they just went and killed Han. These two are kind of clueless, Finn and Rey. They don't really have guidance. Han was a smuggler for years before he sought out to help Luke and the gang in the original trilogy, and then he's got all these years that passed by. He was ready to teach them everything. They don't.
It's a tragedy. Yeah, it's a tragedy. It definitely is.
Yeah, I think story wise, we've been picking apart the story. This for me works. This is another thing that works, and I'm invested in this death. And I'm invested to see where it happens next. Chewie shoots Kylo Ren. Damn, man, that crossbow does damage.
Yeah, it flings them. Like they go flying with that.
Yeah, or I feel it must have ruptured something in Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we get, the fight, the final fights basically with Rey and Finn and Kylo.
Hold on, let's build this up. It's good. This was good too.
Misdirection.
Okay. Rey gets knocked out. That lightsaber doesn't belong to you.
Oh, well, first he says, "Traitor!" He screams, "Traitor!"
Okay. And you see what I'm talking about?
To Finn, yes.
It's building off of that stare. Why do you care? This one stormtrooper, this one expendable stormtrooper, why do you care so much about him? And it's like they build this connection throughout the film. And it culminates here, I think, very well, outside of the fact that when they do start, come get it. I love that line.
I did. That was a good one.
And to me, it was cool to kind of see a fight like this. We hadn't had a fight like this in Star Wars almost never, to where one person is just like, Luke had a little bit of training when he went up against Darth Vader. Finn is nothing. Finn has
Kylo
nothing.
Clearly outclasses Finn, and it's like, that's a losing fight. I don't care how many times he has to go. Finn is losing this fight. There's no way. But I like that. I like that idea, because it's like, how are they going to get out of this? They can't outswing a lightsaber against Kylo.
Right.
So what are they going to do?
And Finn gets like 2 good hits, I think. Or maybe at least, I know he gets at least one.
Yeah, he gets a couple hits in.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe they can get out of it. And then ultimately, right up the backside.
On the back.
Honestly, that would probably look like one of the most painful little lightsaber wounds in all of Star Wars.
It's a carving of your back.
Right. They carved his back up like a goddamn turkey.
Enough to knock him out, so there's a piece missing.
His spine is damaged, his nerve system's damaged. Goodness gracious.
Yep. And
then you got the classic.
Again, a callback from the original trilogy.
This was good.
A lightsaber in the snow.
Correct.
And then suddenly he's reaching out for it. He's reaching out. He's struggling, and then it's moving. Flies right past him. Rey catches it. And then the music builds up. Ignites it, and then they start fighting for real. And now I gotta defend Rey, because I'm speaking from being very invested in swordplay, to have a casual understanding of it, and from seeing a lot of videos around swordplay. Using a staff is very similar to the mechanics of using a sword, you know, because they're just big, long cylinder type things
Sure.
where you have to use, mechanically speaking, that's why a lot of people can still use long swords and katanas. Like there's the same principles still apply, but except with lightsabers, it's easier because there's no edge. The edge is a circle. The edge is a
Right.
circle. So you don't have to worry about edge alignment, which makes it easier, which Rey never had to worry about edge alignment either. She had a, what do you call it?
I guess
A staff.
Yeah.
And she was very good with the staff because, as we saw in the earlier parts, she was hitting people all over the place. She wasn't good with a blaster. She was not good with a blaster, but she was very good with her staff. So it's reasons I think that it's believable that she gets the upper hand on an injured Kylo here.
Keyword injured, because I was gonna say, I don't know if she should be winning this fight, but
I don't think she should be winning it injured or not injured Kylo. I believe the sense that she could put up a fight against an injured Kylo that's fresh off of a fight after Finn, who did do some minor damage. I remember that scene where, you know, they press their lightsabers together and Kylo's digging the cross guard into Finn's soldier.
Finn's,
yeah. Like I thought that was really good. I'm like, wow, he's really going for it. So after that fight, I can believe Rey kind of, because, you know, Rey, when Rey is swinging the lightsaber initially, you can tell that she's not adept at it. Like the way she's swinging it compared to Kylo, it looks like it's very amateurish in a lot of ways. There's a lot of moments where she's repeating the same thrusts of her lightsaber,
just like she would do with the staff.
Right. I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah.
And Kylo, you know, it's just, you know, countering, deflecting, all that stuff. And if this was an anime, I could believe this next part. But you get that scene where now they clash the lightsabers again, similar.
Yes.
Right. And, you know, she has Rey in a corner and you know, he's pressuring her. And what was Kylo's line here about the Force?
teach you.
He's like, you need a teacher.
I could teach you to use
you about the Force. Yeah, something like
I ain't gonna be taught by nobody who's in my face. I can teach you.
But wait a minute. The Force?
I'll believe it because
did the Force awaken at that point? Is that
the Force was awakening this whole movie?
The Force has been awakened, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been awakened.
I think I like that part because ultimately Kylo was at a moment of imbalance, you know, being injured, just killing his father. He was like he was struggling, and he didn't want to kill Rey. He wanted to teach her.
I want to teach you.
So he wasn't trying to kill her. He was trying to stop her so that he could be like, come join me, which is a very clear difference. I think this fight is believable. She gets in, she starts connecting to the thing that's been calling her, right? And then boom, she beats him. They all get everybody, they fly up from the Falcon, they blow the planet up. Woohoo.
Yay. Let's mourn the 5 planets they blew up. Oh no, we're not gonna mourn? Okay.
You saw their screams when they perished.
Don't know what planets those were.
Yeah. But either way, it just the story, I think the story should have wrapped up here. I think would have been a great ending for this film is if they get the piece and they said, we don't know, you know, we still don't know what this map holds, and we have to wait for Finn to wake up. And then as they say that, they cut to R2-D2, and suddenly R2-D2 lights up and the movie drops. That's where I think the movie should have ended. Because the plot's already over.
Luke. No, Luke.
No, absolutely not. You had him away all this movie, but I think this movie specifically, the movie was already over. You know, Rey says, "I'm gonna come back for you." Already in her second movie getup. I feel like this should have been in the second movie. I don't think that, you know, this should have been in this movie. I really don't. I think they should have left it open so that when the next person comes along, he could have had like an idea and had more of a semblance. But instead, you had a scene that directly ties into the next movie, so it makes it impossible to have any time in between movies.
It definitely feels a little awkward with how that scene even plays out, because I mean, I get it. It's this slow build up to, they land on the little rock island thing with R2D2 and Ray, and she's walking up the hill, and she knows Luke is here. And then you get that scene where you see the cloaked figure. She sees him, and there's this long ass moment where they're just staring at each other. And then she, digs in her bag, and then, this is your, well, I mean, she didn't say anything, but this is yours, right? And it's another like solid minute to a minute and a half of them just staring at each other. And I'm like, they don't do that in the second movie. They don't do that in The Last Jedi. I mean, they had this scene, but it's not like this. And I feel like it was forced tension that was unnecessary. Cause like, oh, what is Luke gonna say something? Is he gonna say?
His contract said he had to be in the movie for more than a minute, so that scene had to hold out.
Of course,
perfect. And there was this assumption where I remember at the time, we don't know about Rey's lineage. You don't know where she's from. You don't know who she was waiting for on Jakku. Why she was so like she wanted to go back. Like who promised her that someone was coming back? And there were assumptions that, potentially because she was force sensitive and she beat Kylo Ren, is this the daughter of Luke? They didn't say Luke did not have any children. And why is Luke looking at her like, it's you?
One thing that we forgot to mention is that like there was that expanded universe that they chose not to adapt.
Canonize, if that's
they de-canonize everything.
Why pay for somebody's royalties when you can just make something new for free?
Because those were actually really good stories.
I know, but I'm just saying, from a Disney perspective, they're like, why go with somebody else's story as an adaptation when I can just make my own Disney branded version of it?
And not only that, it's like there's like thousands of stories from after the original trilogy where it's like Disney's gonna have to do a lot of homework keeping up with what characters live at this point, what dies.
Not saying they had to be a full straight adaptation. For example, Kylo Ren, his name is Ben. That is pulled straight from the expanded universe.
Yes,
it's pulled wrongly. They pulled it wrongly to where it almost makes absolutely no sense.
Yes,
they borrowed elements.
Because what do you call it? Why would Ben be the name of Leia and Han's?
Well, the only thing that I can now say that makes more sense for that was the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
Wow.
Wait, enlighten me. What?
Hello?
Your father, Senator Bail Organa, sent me. What's your name? Who are you?
The whole show.
Oh, I guess.
Princess Leia and
the Leia bit. I forgot the Leia bit.
That is the only way. That
was 7 years later. Doesn't count.
It was 7 years later, but I like when things start making more sense. That's a Star Wars tradition, everybody. The prequels came out, nobody liked them until they started making Clone Wars. The sequels came out and no one started appreciating the little intricacies until Disney Plus shows.
No one likes the sequels still.
I like this movie. Like, I genuinely like this movie. And revisiting it, I think I was harsh on it in the years past, like in the last 3 years. But I really like this movie going back to it. I feel like there's a sense of wonder, and I always will have my headcanon that Poe Dameron and Finn are Poe is a gay man. Oscar Isaac played him as a gay man, and Finn is a bisexual disaster himbo.
Let me just
have said my piece.
That was actually more built up, I believe, than the Rey
There
Yes.
was a lot of
Infatuation.
tension between Poe and
Poe, listen. Poe smacked Finn on the shoulder, looked him up and down, and went, and he was like,
I know what
good. It
scene you're
looks good
talking
on you.
about. I know what scene.
I
And
was
I'm like, what's that about?
But it's also very much kind of like that. I don't know. This might sound weird. That pet thing. You know, he gives him a name, and he's like, he gave me a name. He sees value in me.
Wow.
That
You
is
know?
He gives him
Is that dangerous?
jacket.
He gave him a
but
jacket
think
too.
about it. The jacket, the name. Think about it. He had a barcode for a name before he met Poe. He had a barcode for a name.
I'm just saying that their love story was written very, the things
Their
were
love,
there.
that's just something official.
Yeah, it was already there. Their love story is written. In this film, if they would have went to the second film, and Poe and Finn start having a romance, I would have believed it. And the reason why it's not in the films is because everyone at Disney are cowards.
Because they shipped Finn and Rey. They're a perfect couple.
Goodbye.
They're a perfect couple.
Sure, perfect. That's the word to describe it. But yeah,
I think. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think this movie of this trilogy is probably the most well put together film.
I think it's the least offensive.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Just, as we picked it apart, there are it's like a really good first act, a so-so second and third act. The pieces were there, but it was like, Nino, as you stated, this mystery box wasn't filled with that deep of mystery, it's very surface level. And as the Clone Wars, this non-canon expanded universe, a lot of these other factions of Star Wars deepen the actual mysteries of Star Wars, and it's like, y'all didn't really do much. And I think that's my biggest thing when I rewatch this movie again, is that the chains are not moved. And I think that's what I walk away with. Just kind of, it's here, doesn't do much different, does a little bit, doesn't do much. It doesn't do much. There.
Yeah, I think despite the gripes I have with the film now, I still think you could have fun watching this movie. You could definitely still just go in for the ride and be like, "Yep, this is Star Wars. It's a New Hope with a fresh coat of paint." So there's still fun to be had with it. I just think because it borrows heavily a lot from A New Hope, it doesn't age as gracefully as maybe some of the other films in the Star Wars pantheon. Like, again, it's just A New Hope with a fresh coat of paint, and because of that, it doesn't have its own identity. And in that sense, you're making the comparison to A New Hope. And for me, I'm just more critical of the film overall. I remember praising this film when I initially saw it. I was like, damn, A Force Awakens, Star Wars is back, baby. I don't care if it's like A New Hope. We're back. This is it. I loved it. And the mystery boxes, I was invested because the question was, who are the Knights of Ren? Why did Kylo do what he did? Betray Luke.
Who is Snoke?
Why did Luke run away?
Why did Luke run away?
There were so many questions where I was like, JJ, you bastard, you did it. You did it. I can't wait for these sequels. I can't wait for you to direct these sequels and carry on these plot threads. Who's Rey? Who's Rey? Who is she waiting for? Who is she waiting for? It was good stuff. But now, the trilogy is over. We have the benefit of hindsight. The film is going to be 8 years old this year, in 2023. Looking back on it, there's just so many things with it where, without me trying to jump ahead and be like, oh, they never finished this plot thread until the Rise of Skywalker. There's just some characters in here that I just am not a fan of. Finn, I like John Boyega in this movie. I don't like the way Finn is portrayed. And I remember having this problem back when the movie came out. One of the things I didn't like was how eccentric Finn was compared to how he was raised in the film, because he's being raised by a fascist militaristic boot camp from birth. I would have even believed his character if maybe he wasn't like maybe he was brought in like as a young child, like, you know, maybe 8, 10, whatever. But I just lose that believability where he's raised from birth to be in the First Order, and he's just this happy, I use loosely, but this go-lucky, eccentric character. And I'm like, how did you not get outed in the First Order?
He's also just kind of dumb. He's just dumb.
You're dumb. And there was a throwaway line where he's like, "Oh, I work sanitation on the planet." So he didn't really have like a military like post in the First Order, but it's just like, how did they not like root you out like early on? And so like I remember
have you seen
problem.
The rest of the stormtroopers? They're very incompetent.
No, they are very incompetent. It's just once Finn takes off the helmet, it's like it's a brand new character. And maybe that was the point, but I feel like there's a version of this film where John Boyega's acting like the way he believes the character should act, but then whether it's J.J. Abrams or someone else, they say cut in the scene, and they're like, "Hold on, John, we need you to be a little bit more extra in this scene." I'm alluding to this in the background. We need you to be a little bit more. You know, Rey just got captured by Kylo, and you know you're very upset. You're very upset. 2 or 3 takes later, JJ's like, "Listen, just give it your all. Give it your all. I don't care."
Do you like Denzel? Do what he does.
Do it, Denzel. Do it, Denzel.
I don't think that's it. I think that John Boyega just made choices because I think he was like, this is my chance to blow up my career. I'm gonna make all the choices, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see that too.
Yeah. I think that there's a version of this movie because knowing where the script goes, right? For the other
from here movies, until the next movie. Okay.
I think there's a moment where The Force Awakens happens and Finn has a line where he's in the market, he's like drinking from the water, and then like maybe he has like a line like he's like seeing all these fruits and things, and he's just so enthralled by it, and he's learning to love the things around him and would hate to see it go, you know what I mean? So that's why he's a little bit eccentric, and he's just like, I don't know, I felt like the entire years of my life there was like a fog over me, and then suddenly something clicked, like there was an awakening.
You know, there's a better version of this film somewhere out there, like a second or third draft, because I think at this time Disney was very afraid to have a hero character that originates from something of evil, right? Yes. You know, yeah. Finn's from the First Order, which again, we said it earlier, the concept of a stormtrooper is very interesting, that, you know, they defect. I think had we learned a little bit about Finn, and I get it, the movie's already like 2.5 hours long at this point, but I feel like I needed that to really be invested in, okay, I understand why John's doing the way, of Finn's character. I understand why he's portraying him this way, because Disney's done this with other characters too, like Battlefront 2, EA's Battlefront 2, another concept in the campaign where it's a stormtrooper. You go through the eyes of a stormtrooper defecting, and it like within the span of like an hour, bam, done. You join the rebellion. It's like, what are you guys so afraid of to humanize the Empire through the lens of a character that wants to like the character notices the atrocities that the Empire is committing, or the First Order in this case, and they learn slowly over time, hey, you know, maybe these guys are not the good guys.
Maybe, just maybe, they already had that in Darth Vader.
No. I can't.
I'll say this. I don't know about Darth Vader, actually. I think what they tried to do is they wanted to have a deuteragonist. They wanted to have two main protagonists. That's really hard to do when both of your deuteragonists have to be built up from like nothing.
Yeah.
And where what happens is one gets built up way more than the other, and the other one plateaus. Finn plateaus in this movie. And dare I say he might plateaus for the rest of this movie. I mean, for the rest of this trilogy.
I don't think he plateaus in this. I think this was his peak.
Oh, sure.
Oh, right. Yeah, like
he has a full character arc. I think he's one of the only people to have like a fully developed character arc that is, and like by the end of the movie, he's just like, I'm making choices because I want to get my friend back, and I'm finally finding something to to fight for, the reason I'm here. And what do you call it, I just feel like everyone else kind of plateaued, and of course some characters were in it for the long haul. Anakin and Darth Vader's stories were a long, like 6 movies long arc. Of course not everything was going to happen at once, but I think they were trying to have 3 protagonists in this film: Kylo Ren, Rey, and Finn.
Sure.
But you can't have your cake and eat it too. I feel like Finn had the most development in this film, but Rey had the most focus. But Kylo had a mix of both because he was the antagonist to both of them.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying there's a better version of this movie, I think, and I think maybe there's I think the element of surprise, especially with a mystery box setting, could have been used better. I don't think that we should have gotten any of the mysteries in throwaway dialogue sequences,
Right, yeah.
I don't think we should have gotten that. I feel like the reveal of Kylo Ren's identity, if I was directing this film, I would have kept it to the very moment Han Solo gets on that bridge and starts yelling, "Ben! Ben!"
I think that would have been a perfect time to really, make that reveal, because it's like, what's Han doing? Why is he calling him out? Oh, is there
now? And
more?
give hints. I also think that maybe Rey could have been a little bit more force sensitive than she let on, or maybe she just thought that everyone else was like that. Because she's been alone for most of this time. She's like, yeah, sometimes like the winds speak to me or something, or sometimes I hear voices out in the desert calling to me, something.
Yeah, I would have liked some, because then, you get those scenes later on with like the interrogation chair and everything. And I'm like, okay, they established this already from the beginning and it's more believable, but they don't.
But again, I think that their devotion to the mystery box ended up hurting this film in the long run.
Yeah,
it's still a fun movie, but
still fun.
There's just a big glaring issues when you rewatch it.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things where I like, even before I did this rewatch, I was thinking, Force Awakens, the best of the trilogy. A very, very, very good movie. It's funny how years can change the perspective of a movie, like how you view it. It's definitely something that I won't go as far as to say it's a bad movie. It's definitely not something where I'll be like, oh man, it's unwatchable, it's terrible. But it's a lot worse than I remember it. I kind of want to go back to that rose-tinted goggle viewing of Force Awakens, because I was praising it from top to bottom before. JJ, you're a genius. Oh man, can't wait.
The pinnacle of fiction.
It's a pinnacle. I was up there, and then rewatching it, yikes. Just big yikes.
I really had fun. I still think it's a really good.
Still fun movie.
Yeah, still think it's a good movie.
It's lukewarm.
Lukewarm. Piss warm?
No, lukewarm, like Luke Skywalker.
Oh, okay. See, oh wow, you're 2 for 3 now. Good.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Perfect.
Well, are we good? Is that it?
I think that's it on this movie. I think so. I think we covered everything besides, the lens flare. Now let's talk about an hour about the J.J. Abrams lens flare, everybody.
Oh, the lens flare, his favorite.
We saved that one for another day.
Of course.
Yeah, but I enjoyed this discussion. I think it's definitely fun as we did. We kind of went into that initial reaction from announcement to hype going into the trailers and the eventual premiere, and we let you know we hit you with some realness, and it was fun. I think we had fun here at the table looking back at Star Wars The Force Awakens. But with that said, folks, we're gonna close up shop here. We will be back. This is a trilogy.
Unfortunately,
we will be back. I think our boy Nino, who has gladly led us to the promised land here of our interpretation of Force Awakens, will be back again. Nino, we thank you for leading us, and can't wait to hear from you again on the next retro Star Wars piece, being The Last Jedi, episode 8. So we'll be back with episode 8, and we'll keep y'all posted. But hey, folks, thank you for listening at home, listening in the car, wherever you listen to. Thank you for listening all podcast stations, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Thank you for following us on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, TikTok. Hey, we back on TikTok, folks. We making a splash. Go check us out. We talk Star Wars a lot, among other franchises. If you ever like to talk more with us, please join our Discord to join the discourse that we got going on there. I'm sure Nino will be spouting off kind of preludes to The Last Jedi retro piece. So if you want to catch get an appetizer of that, check us out. But hey, without further ado, that is it from us here at the Yonko table. I'm your host, Grandmaster Hoop, fellow Yonko, DrJaceAttorney, and Supernova guest host, Nino Desposado. Y'all have a good night, and everyone want to do their final Star Wars line of the night. Here, I'll go first. Do it.
Oh, we're going through the entire franchise?
You do whatever you want. I don't care. Do whatever.
Oh, God. That's not fair.
I slaughtered them like animals.
Wow. It goes to what we were saying earlier. All prequel quotes. Look at that.
No.
Wow. Perfect. Profound. Shakespearean.
We're out of here. We're done. Goodbye, folks. Goodbye.